Hi and welcome to the channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. And yes, I survived no rewatch January when I wasn't able to watch any movies I'd ever seen before. By the way, I'm re-recording this video at 10 o'clock at night, so espresso time. So I had this dilemma at the end of the month. It was a hard month doing January with no movies I'd ever seen before. So I came up with a dilemma. I wanted to find comfort films, but I wasn't able to watch comfort films, which is really difficult. But then I remembered a video I did a long time ago in YouTube years, where I talked about the longest running movie series with the same actor playing the same character, being this guy, Tora-san. And I'd only watched 5 of the 48 movies starring Tora-san. So I watched 2 more, and it kind of took the edge off me wanting to have comfort films and still staying true to that promise I made myself and the channel to only watch movies I hadn't seen before in January. So that was fun. I actually hacked my own premise and my own challenge by watching those movies, which they're all a little bit similar, but they're a little bit different as well. And they're comfort films, and they're sweet and sentimental, and they're old-fashioned in a Japanese kind of way. You can watch the video here. And then I decided that when I was able to watch movies that I'd seen before, I wanted to hit the comfort zone of cinema for me. And the comfort zone for cinema for me has always been 1970s exploitation movies. And fortunately, in my post-Christmas sale buying frenzy, I got some of those movies, and that's kind of cool for me. One's from the 1960s actually, but the first one is from the 1970s. 1975, directed by Jack Hill, who directed Spider Baby and Coffee and Foxy Brown and all the good things like that. It is the Switchblade Sisters. Now, if you haven't seen the Switchblade Sisters, you're missing out. It's a really cool 1970s exploitation movie. It's actually a loose adaptation of William Shakespeare's Othello, which has been adapted before for movies. There's a Western version of it from 1950-something called Jubal, starring Glenn Ford and Ernest Borgnine. And for me, this is the best William Shakespeare adaptation about a street gang. It's set in a kind of dystopian present in a sense. 1970s urban areas were not doing well. New York was full of junkies and pornography and other good things. The movie is, I think, set in New York, but it's actually filmed in LA on the MGM New York street set in Culver City, just before they tore it all down. And it works for me. This movie just works in a number of ways. It's about a girl gang called the Jezebels. At the start of the movie, the gang's called the Dagger Debs because they're the kind of female auxiliary of the Silver Daggers, a bunch of guys who saw West Side Story while dropping acid and decided to form a street gang. And the Dagger Debs are run by Lace, a tough chick who, with her second in charge, Patch, runs the Dagger Debs. Her boyfriend is Dominic, the head of the Silver Daggers, and into this kind of team comes Maggie, played by Joanne Nell. So Maggie goes to a juvenile correction facility with the girls when they're caught by the cops having a brumble in a burger bar. And they have the usual cliches of women in prison films. The tough butch lesbian warden, the tough girls in there, fights. Maggie gets hassled by the matron and has her head shoved down the toilet. So, all fun and games for everybody. And then when they get out, Maggie is a part of the Dagger Debs, who then become the Jezebels. There's a rival gang of older guys who are kind of hooked into the political system as much as they are into the criminal system, run by a guy called Krabs who has a mullet. And the Jezebels and the Silver Daggers go up against them. And then the Jezebels kind of branch off and link up with a black militant female gang run by Marlene Clark, and her name in the movie is Muff.
So what do you want?
We need some help. Me and my girls here were the Dagger Debs, and now we're the Jezebels.
No men.
Cowards.
So that's all you need to know. There's violence, there's action, there's switchblades, there's a kind of shootout in a roller disco, which you've got to love. And the movie is great. Now, here's where the value added in getting this on disc is. Arrow Video put out a little booklet with this, with picture on the front, picture on the back. That's Lace, that's Maggie, and they actually have an essay which addresses the problematic parts of the movie in an interesting way. There's an essay by feminist film scholar Alexandra Helen Nicholas called On Maggie's Rape, which puts into context the rape of the character Maggie by Dominic, the head of the Silver Daggers. And it's a beautiful essay. I mean, it's just fantastically written. It's cogent. It does what I try to do on this channel in a way, where you kind of acknowledge and contextualize the problematic parts of old movies that you love while still enjoying the movie. And she does it beautifully in this. It's a really fine piece of film writing, and the fact that it appears in Arrow Video's version of Switchblade Sisters is something that I really appreciated. It kind of actually really helped me understand what I was trying to do with this channel, in that, yeah, there are movies that have got incredible problematic areas to them, but still they're movies of value. And kind of learning through reading things like this how to approach that on the channel without kind of empowering the worst parts of the movies, but still acknowledging the best parts. And for me, that makes Switchblade Sisters worthwhile. Quentin Tarantino's company, Rolling Thunder, re-released Switchblade Sisters about 20 years ago and made it more popular. And Jack Hill thanks Tarantino in some of the extras he does in this particular set of the movie. It's, for me, it's like perfectly tuned to that grindhouse exploitation genre, and it works really, really well. And rewatching it, I'd only ever seen it on VHS back in the day, but rewatching it was a lot of fun, and I may well do it again.
When did he ever bring you home?
The second film is from the wonderful people at Imprint, an Australian label that is really putting out some interesting stuff. They usually do about 6 movies a month. And they're the ones who gave me House of Cards. Well, they didn't give it to me, I paid for it. But they're the ones that put out House of Cards, a movie with George Papard and Orson Welles that I talked about on a previous video. And I decided that I was going to match it up with Switchblade Sisters. So I needed a Girls Gone Wild kind of movie, and this is perfect for that. From 1964, it's Ann-Margret and John Forsythe in Kitten With A Whip, which is black and white, made by Universal, directed by Douglas Hayes. In it, Ann-Margret plays a girl called Jodie who escapes from juvie, and to escape she's done a couple of things. She's like burnt down a dormitory and slashed a matron with a knife, as you do. And she's kind of looking for a place to hide. She goes through a stockyard, she goes through a construction site, and ends up in the comfortable ranch house of a guy called David, played by John Forsythe, who was the voice of Charlie in Charlie's Angels, and was in Bachelor Father and all of those kind of series, and was in Dynasty, I believe, who is an aspiring politician. He's just about to be nominated for senator. He's part of the political machine. It doesn't say which party. His daughter and his wife are in San Francisco. There's somewhat of an estrangement between the couple, and they're trying to work things out long distance. And so suddenly he wakes up and finds 17-year-old Jodie in his daughter's bedroom. Now, Jodie gives him a sob story which he believes because he's an idiot.
You follow all this? You live behind walls here, man. Where I come from is outer space. Well, before I knew it, he was all over me, but I got a knee up and it was almost worth it to hear him howl.
He buys her some clothes to wear because all she's got is a nightgown she wore out of juvie. And then she starts twisting the screws. She can yell rape, and then he's in trouble. He's bought her clothing and things like that. So he's really in a dangerous area. This is set in an alternate universe where, when there's an argument about whether a 17-year-old girl is raped by a middle-aged man, the man's in the right. That doesn't happen in the real world. But in this one, David kind of gets deeper and deeper into Jodie's craziness She changes moods instantly. She's vindictive and nasty and full on sadistic one moment, and soft and vulnerable pretending to be in the next. And he falls for it for a certain period of time, then doesn't. Then Jodie calls up some friends, and 3 of her friends turn up.
Oh, Mr. Stratton, sir, we weren't sure you were home with all the lights turned off.
I've been watching television. You came for Jodie, I believe.
In a way, sir, yes. That is, we came at her invitation for the coming out party.
2 guys and a girl. And the guys are kind of middle-class frat boys, one of whom's played by Peter Brown, who was in Westerns a lot and was also, I think, in Coffee, the Jack Hill movie from the 1970s. But they're kind of, he's the intellectual one, the other guy's the jock. They've got a girl that comes with them and plays records at this party that they suddenly have. Things go belly up and something goes wrong, and they then coerce David to drive them to Tijuana. The movie's set in San Diego. They got to drive down to Tijuana, cross the border illegally on a dry creek bed, and get to Tijuana. So there's this crazy nightmare ride that this guy goes on, where he's being manipulated by all 3. The other girl leaves fairly quickly, but the other 3 manipulate him and put him in danger. But it all turns out all right for him in the end. And right at the end, the wonderful character actor Leo Gordon comes into the movie to explain what's happened and kind of wrap things up neatly for the white, middle-aged, middle-class, aspiring politician. But having said that, the movie's crazy good fun. It's over the top, it's strident. It reuses some music that Henry Mancini did for Universal in the 50s. So it's got a great crime jazz soundtrack that's used kind of sparingly in it. They have some crazy scenes set in Tijuana, which were actually filmed on backlot, with midnight trips to the doctor and strip clubs and tequila and booze and all sorts of things like that, and crazy tourists. It's like it's almost trying to emulate parts of Touch of Evil. Now, ann-Margret in it is totally over the top, crazy, wonderful. This was at the kind of golden point of her career. She'd done Bye Bye Birdie, where she was great. She did movies like The Pleasure Seekers, which is a kind of groovier remake of 3 Coins in the Fountain. She did The Swinger with Anthony Franciosa. She did Viva Las Vegas with Elvis. She was just the hot chick in American cinema at the time, and then went on to do some really interesting roles in movies like Carnal Knowledge, and also Tommy. She plays Roger Daltrey's mother in Tommy in 1975 with Oliver Reed. So ann-Margret in the 1960s is the wild child, and she was never wilder than in Kitten with a Whip. The movie's got some nice extras in it. It's got an audio commentary by Alexandra Heller Nicholas, who did that essay for Switchblade Sisters, and Josh Nelson. There's a video essay by Kat Ellinger about delinquent girls in film called Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, The Rise of Delinquent Girls in Film. And there's a video essay specifically about Kitten with a Whip by Andrew Nettie called She Reached for Evil, Dissecting Kitten with a Whip, where Andrew talks about the original novel and this particular genre of teensploitation, which Kitten with a Whip is one of the outliers of. I really love what Imprint do. They put together a wonderful package. They do it multiple times a month. With Imprint, I don't always get the movies that they put out because, to be honest with you, some of them I don't like. But that's okay. I'll cherry pick each month the Imprint movies that I want. I'll wait until JB Hi-Fi has a 20% off sale and I'll get them quite cheaply. And I think that they're putting out some of the most interesting content in Australia. Umbrella's also doing some wonderful things at the moment. As far as physical media is concerned, those 2 companies here in Australia, Umbrella and Imprint, are doing fantastic stuff. Now, according to Heath at Serial at Midnight, this one's multi-region and it will play on an American player. So if you're interested in getting any of these Imprint ones, they're usually good to go on an American zoned Blu-ray player. that's it for this time around. I have survived January. I'm looking forward to the other movies I'm going to see in February. Next video is going to be about jungle films, and I've got 2 good jungle films to have a chat about. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing and leaving a comment. You can also support the channel at patreon.com/paleocinema, and the Patreon supporters get the videos 2 days early. So as always, look after yourselves. Watch some good exploitation movies, watch some bad exploitation movies. Tell me if you ever find out what the difference is. And I'll catch you next time.